Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about the Wolverine. Brandon?
That's right. The Wolverine follows the storyline of Logan, a.k.a. the Wolverine. In the beginning of the movie, we find Wolverine a bent and broken and somewhat of a disturbed man. We see the Wolverine as much worse than we have seen him before, or than I have seen him before. And he really has no purpose, no meaning. He doesn't know what to do. He starts out living in the woods, and he really doesn't know where to go from there. Shortly into the movie, we meet a mysterious Japanese girl who has been sent to find Wolverine because someone in his past, and we do get a little backstory on Wolverine's past, someone in his past has requested as a dying wish that he get to say his last goodbyes to a man who saved his life some years prior. So that takes us to Tokyo, where we are all of a sudden thrown into a world of intrigue and mystery, and we don't exactly know what's going on. But in the end, this is a story of how Wolverine redeems himself, even though he doesn't know he's on this path to redemption, and he finds new purpose in life, and he finds a reason to carry on his fight.
Brandon, how did you feel about the Wolverine?
About the Wolverine, I felt like wow just doesn't cut the mustard. So wow.
Wow.
Exactly. I definitely.
So Brandon's just not feeling it on this one, guys.
Definitely, I enjoyed this movie. This movie had a lot of great acting by both the actors and actresses. I felt very pulled into the story. I felt very much for Logan the man and Logan the Wolverine. It was I got new insight into the backstory that I didn't know before.
Now, you've not seen Origins, right?
I have not seen Origins. I need to, but I have not. I'm disappointed in myself for earlier in the week. I was so tired that I didn't really have a desire to see this movie. I wasn't sure I wanted to see this movie. And after having seen this movie, I would say, I'm sorry I doubted myself on this one. This movie pulled me in. It drew me through. It had a lot of good action. There were things that reminded me of why I like the X-Men in the first place. I will say this, that I felt definitely sorry for the people who walked out at the beginning of the credits. Stay through the credits. Absolutely, there's a reason for it.
I know I'm speaking to the choir when I say this because most of our viewers are comic book movie fans.
Yes.
But how are we at 2013 and people are walking out in the middle of credits during a superhero movie?
This day and age, you gotta expect.
Again, it's not Marvel Studios, but even when it's not, a lot of these things will have something. Anyway.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
I appreciated the character development in this one. I appreciated the backstory. I appreciated the action. It was a well put together movie. I enjoyed it immensely. I am feeling it, and I recommend everyone go see this in the theater and stay through the credits.
Well, Brandon, the Wolverine made me feel like going to Japan and watching X2 again, but not necessarily in that order.
Okay.
This is kind of a tour de force, man. I was really, really impressed. Despite some questions I have, and we'll talk about that in a minute after I get through my little spiel.
Sure.
Because there are some things that the movie is working on so many levels. Some of the questions I have, I'm not sure if the movie doesn't answer or if I just missed them. So this thing's going to require a second viewing, and this does strike me as one of those movies where if I watch it again, I'm going to catch a lot of stuff I didn't catch in the first place.
Okay.
This is a very involved movie. This is a very involved movie with a very large cast of characters, and everybody is very. And I say that because there's a lot of new characters naturally. Almost the entire thing takes place in Japan, and so Wolverine is dealing with this almost exclusively Japanese cast of characters, and they all have distinct personalities.
Yes.
There's, a couple of them are more archetypal than the others, but I still was engaged and interested in everybody, even the bad guys. So that all worked really well. X-Men films have had a history of having too many characters in one movie, especially X3, and this doesn't have that problem because, like I said, everybody's pretty distinct and everybody gets enough screen time, and I understand why they're all there. Most importantly, it's not a movie that's just there to throw as many superpowered mutants in as possible.
Right.
And that was the problem X3 had. That, to a degree, was a problem with First Class, although it handled it a lot better. And this wasn't. I mean, I think that this is entirely indicative of the title. They took X-Men out of the title because it's not an X-Men movie; it's a Wolverine movie. And so there are mutants in the film, but that's not their primary goal. Their primary goal, finally, is to tell a story about Wolverine and make him somebody I care about, and it does that in spades. This is a film, you called it a movie about redemption. That's true to a degree. I'm going to say that it's a movie about nature and about a person's nature, and about a person, in this case, of course, Wolverine, trying to figure out if he can or should move beyond his nature, or if he should accept his nature. In a lot of ways, it's a movie more about acceptance than it is about redemption, given the fact that this is not a movie about Wolverine all the way through the movie trying to get to a point where he stops hurting people and stops killing people. It's a little more about Wolverine having to figure out when that's necessary. And I really appreciated that about it, because that's at the core of Wolverine's character, man.
Sure.
He's the animal, and it's about figuring out how to be an animal and a hero simultaneously. And that's...
And even a man.
And a man, exactly. And that's something that the... it's about learning how to play to your strengths. And that's something that X-Men Origins Wolverine was missing. It's something that people really wanted from that film. It's something that movie talked about but never actually gave you. And this movie doesn't talk about it as much and gives it to you in spades, and I really like that. This is one of the most visceral comic book movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The action is amazing. And when you wrote "Wow" 3 times on your board, I thought back to our movie going experience and thought about the number of times that I said "Wow" almost out loud.
I did say it out loud.
I definitely mouthed it. There are a number of places where I was just like, I can't believe they did that.
There were some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to sum this up, the experience up in one phrase, it would be, I can't believe they went there. And not in a bad way. There are so many places where I'm like, I didn't think they would have the guts to go there. I complain a lot about third acts.
Right.
This is a movie where the third act is the best part of the film.
There was some good stuff.
My goodness.
Sure.
Again, I can't believe some of the places they go. I can't believe something that happens to Wolverine that kind of changes his status quo as we know it. Wow. This thing's pushing envelopes.
Yeah.
I was really, really impressed with all of that. The character arc is beautiful. The parallel character arcs are beautiful.
Yes, I enjoyed those as well.
There's a girl in the movie that honestly doesn't get as much screen time as I expected that she would, and then she became one of the characters I care the most about at the end, which is impressive. Yeah. And by the end, she and Wolverine both. You discover have kind of been the character is Marco, and he and she have kind of have kind of a romantic fling through the film, and by the end of the movie,
there's tension there, and then it becomes sort of a thing.
In this really interesting way, those two have the same kind of character arc in learning to appreciate gifts they were given that they used to see as hindrances, as burdens.
Not only is it gifts that they were given, the gifts they were unwillingly given.
Yeah. Wolverine was born with his, and she was given hers by her father,
her grandfather.
By her grandfather when he dies. Anyway, we'll talk about some other stuff. Obviously, I'm feeling it on this one, and I had a really, really good time with this movie.
Me too.
One of the things that Roger Ebert said when he reviewed X-Men Origins was, and it's too bad that he's not around anymore because I wish he had seen this. I feel like this would have changed his mind a little bit on the character. When he got done with his, and I know you haven't seen the film, but when he got done with his Origins review, he hated Origins, and he got to the end of his review, and he said something along the lines of a lot of superheroes in movies, I actually come to a point where I care about them and I'm in awe of them, and I wouldn't even cross the street to shake hands with Wolverine.
Ooh.
And that's because he didn't have any personality in that movie. And he also was kind of dumbed down so that the plot would work. This movie does not have that problem. Wolverine is as smart as Wolverine should be. What I mean by that is he makes the kind of mistakes that are in his character to
Right.
make.
I would definitely agree on that.
So anyway, okay, so you said that you wish you had seen Origins, that you knew more about his background. The thing is, people were so down on Origins, and a lot of that film is so hackneyed that a lot of people don't even consider it canon anymore.
Okay.
And it's still kind of up in the air as to whether the people making these films are even thinking about it at this point.
Got it.
Which is odd because it was just 2 movies ago. But anyway, so there are things. It's funny because there are things in First Class that contradict Origins. A lot of fans say, "Whatever, it's Origins. Who cares?" You know what I mean? So anyway, what I'm saying is, I'm not sure that you needed Origins for this movie. Is my point.
Gotcha.
I think that you can go into this without knowing anything about that. Okay. And the only there's almost nothing that's borrowed from Origins here, with the exception of the bone claws. Here's the big question I have, and I'd love somebody to leave us a comment and tell me if I just missed something about this because I'm a little confused. The flashback to Nagasaki at the beginning, where Wolverine, he's got his bone claws, and then that's where he meets the guy who the big corporate tycoon in the guy who will later become a corporate tycoon in Japan, who and this isn't giving anything away because this was in the trailers. Basically, this guy offers Wolverine to take his powers away so that he can die in peace. That's the whole point.
Right.
That's the whole idea of the film, and Wolverine's got to decide if he wants to die or not. So here's the thing. He keeps flashing back to that moment. He remembers it intimately. He shouldn't remember that, as far as I know, because Weapon X happens like 30 or 40 years after that. And he loses all of his memory in Weapon X. And yeah, in X2, he gets to piece some of it together when he meets Stryker, and he has some flashes of things here and there. And so he pieces more of Weapon X together, and he gets some of that. But I was a little confused as to how he knew these intimate things that happened to him before Weapon X happened.
That's not something I could answer for you.
I was a little confused about that. And there's a line in the movie that's more of a thematic thing than anything, of like the mind can overcome anything, but it's not in the context of Wolverine's missing memories. So I felt like that was even a coincidence that line is there in a movie that it has Wolverine remembering things that I don't think he should remember. Anyway, I'm confused about that, and that's one of the things that I feel like I need to see the movie again to see if I missed something about that.
I can understand that.
Anyway, that's my biggest concern about it. And that's just a continuity thing.
Okay, one thing that I wanted to mention, I mentioned at the beginning, I said that Wolverine's a bent and broken man, and he's kind of he's almost gone insane, really. When we see him, there are several, I wouldn't call them flashbacks, but flashes where we get dream sequences that he's having, or hallucinations, if you will. Maybe hallucinations that involve Jean, and she's trying to pull him over to wherever she is, wherever her side is. She wants Wolverine to come and join him and kind of let go of his life, and that's kind of part of what's driving this movie forward, in the fact that Wolverine doesn't know what he wants to do, and when he is faced with the decision, do I let this guy have my powers and let myself die, he's not exactly sure how to handle it, because he's already been trying to grapple with such a situation, how he can't die, and so that kind of drives it a little bit forward there for me.
I love movies about immortality when they're done right. And what's great about this is, of course, that's always been in the background for Wolverine, only in that we know that he's been around for a really long time, but it's not something that's ever thematically really been tackled with the character. And this thing is a wonderful study of that. Would immortality be a blessing or a curse? And in the film, you get the old man who really wants immortality, but at the same time recognizes why it's such a curse for Wolverine. And it's really interesting to juxtapose those two things and think about it on an individual level for yourself. Would I want to live forever? Is it more important to prolong your life and stick around for as long as possible, or is purpose more important? And if you lived long enough, would you lose that purpose? This is not new. This is not a new theme for these kinds of movies. This is not a new theme for comic book stories, but it's handled in a very sophisticated way here. And
it's handled in two entirely different ways. The one in which the old man is trying to convince Wolverine that he is living without purpose because his life is immortal, but yet he secretly wants to be immortal, so his life has purpose.
It's not even a secret. He tells Wolverine that's what he wants.
Right.
Although he says that it's that it's to protect his granddaughter more than anything. But anyway, so yeah, all that's really interesting. This is a gorgeous movie.
Yeah, it has a lot of
photography,
stunning
amazing.
Stunning visuals, and a lot of great special effects in this one, I thought.
And everything's integrated really well. This was not a CGI dilemma for me.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Another thing this really has going over Origins is that Wolverine's claws always look like they're actually there.
Yes.
In X-Men Origins, a lot of the time the claws were CG and you could tell, and it was really bad. Here, They changed the design of them a little bit, which didn't bother me because they looked a little more realistic, to be frank, and they looked a little more worn, like they'd been around a long time, and I really liked that. And that's something else I really appreciated about this. It is the most violent of the X-Men films. Like I'm surprised they got away with PG-13 on this one, and this was something that Hugh Jackman and the director were talking about in an interview I watched a few months ago, where they said, we want to do a movie where finally when Wolverine stabs people, there's actually blood, because there would be, and I can kind of understand why like Bryan Singer didn't want that in a straight up X-Men movie.
Right.
But in a more gritty Wolverine movie, I was kind of glad to get it because it wasn't gratuitous violence. It really served the story.
Right.
And I kind of felt like when Wolverine is dealing with this dilemma of, can I be more than the sum of my parts, but also are there times that I have to kill, or would it be better for me to just go away? It's nice to feel the impact of the violence that he causes, not just what happens to him,
right,
but the violence that he causes.
Absolutely.
There are some amazing action scenes in this.
Yes, there are, and
the best one's the bullet train.
That's what I was about to say.
Cool.
Was definitely the bullet train. There's some good pandering to violence. I would not violence, but action is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Pandering to action on that one. Like you said, there is a bit of violence in this. That scene doesn't have a lot of violence, but there is it's intense action on a bullet train.
Yeah, and intense is the right word, because that's that movie all the way through.
It starts out in the bullet train and progresses to outside the bullet train.
What I almost wrote on this was just in big giant letters, exhausted. And again, not in a bad way, but man, when I got done with this, I felt like I'd run a gauntlet.
And apparently so did Wolverine too. I mean, we saw plenty of exhausted Wolverine parts.
I'm sure there are a lot of people that felt like because X-Men Origins got made, it was kind of unfair to do yet another Wolverine movie without giving maybe some of the other X-Men their own movies, or without doing another X-Men movie earlier. I'm so glad we finally got a good Wolverine movie. That's not to say that this has no problems. I do feel like, and again, I might not feel like this after multiple viewings, I do feel like by about the middle of the movie, the plot starts to lose me just a little bit. And I feel like I got back on board bored. But there's this period of maybe about a half an hour where I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying what I'm watching or that the pacing falls apart or anything like that. It's just so involved. Like there's so many characters with their own motivations.
You wonder how you're going to pull it back together.
Well, that, and I kind of wonder what's going on exactly.
Yeah.
And you even alluded to that earlier, that there is this point where we're like, I'm not even sure what's going on. It all comes back together by the end, and then we figure that out. So I feel like a lot of that I'm going to appreciate a lot more watching it again. I'm like, oh yeah, and that's why that person's doing this, and why that's a lot of, it's a corporate espionage film.
It is.
And so it's got a lot of that.
Mystery and intrigue. There was a good amount of that for me, I felt.
I am just fascinated by the notion of comparing a superpower to a running multi-million or billion-dollar corporation. I think that's a really cool way to take this. It's ironic that this is not really an X-Men film, that it's more of a straight-up Wolverine movie, and that it does the most sophisticated job we've had in a long time of actually doing something with superpowers, doing a little bit of social commentary, talking about the real world, but also just in a very sober way, bringing it back to what the whole point of X-Men was in the first place, of human beings don't appreciate mutants or are jealous of them, and it goes more in that way. The first couple X-Men movies, it was a lot more of human beings are scared of mutants, and you always fear what you don't understand. Here, it's going to what I think the other side of that would be, which is not just we hate and fear mutants, but also we hate them because we wish we were them.
Yeah, we want to be that thing that is different from us.
And it was just really nice to play with that. Anyway, I'm sorry. I've been talking a lot. What sorts of things did you pick up on that you really liked, or that you didn't like?
Well, as a matter of fact, in the big climactic scene at the end, there were a couple of things that I didn't care for. I can't say much without giving anything away.
Really?
But I was pulled out of the movie for about a minute. I was unable to suspend my disbelief during one particular instance.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah, it did come right back. It did pull me back in, and I felt like they tied up some loose ends that I wasn't sure how they were going to tie up. There is this really intense scene where you're not sure what's going to happen next to Wolverine. He's being shot at from all sides, which is nothing unusual for his character.
That was a cool visual, by the way.
But that was a really neat visual. There's a character in this movie, I will say, she reminded me a lot of Poison Ivy.
Okay, yeah.
And you might think that's a fair comparison.
Yeah,
yes?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
sure.
Reminded me a lot of Poison Ivy. In a couple of ways, you'll notice when you watch the movie.
She could have played Poison Ivy.
She could have. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff.
But there were some twists.
What did you think of her?
I thought she was.
I don't know if her villain
interesting.
name. I didn't look this up ahead of time. I don't know if her villain name is Viper. I guess I'm assuming it must be.
I think it is.
It's not a character. I gotta say, it's not a character I was familiar with.
She's not specifically called Viper, but she's alluded to as a Viper.
You do, but you have that big supervillain moment where it seems to be a wink, wink, nod, nod. This is what my name is supposed to be. I'm pretty sure that's who that is. Let me also say, by the way, that I'm not familiar very much with a lot of the source material that this movie is based on, because I haven't read very much Solo Wolverine, and I'm pretty sure they borrowed a lot of this, especially the Silver Samurai stuff, which I know who Silver Samurai is. That's all I know. I think they borrowed a lot of that from some of the early Volume 1 Wolverine stuff, which I own but have never read. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, she's a very interesting character. There's a reason for her, and there's a good reason for her, and it's an interesting reason. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
It definitely...
Not especially developed or anything, but...
She's not especially developed, but what she does develops Logan's character in a way I didn't think possible.
Good point. Sure.
And so there's definitely a reason for whether you like her or not.
Did you think she was too over the top for this movie? I thought I was going to from the previews.
Almost. I didn't even really notice her in the previews myself, but I almost thought she was going to be too over the top. There was a scene that almost felt over the top with her, But at the same time, that's her character. She wasn't very developed.
Yeah.
That was them almost trying to develop the character, but we never get much more than that. We really don't. And you know the scene I'm talking about.
I know precisely what you're talking about. You know what? I was fine with it.
I was
with
too.
That. Yeah.
I was fine with it too, but it was definitely interesting.
I'll say this: there was at least one point in the movie where I looked at Brandon and noticed that he was almost shielding his eyes.
There were a couple of things where I was just like, wow, they did that. They went there, and I feel bad for that character. Like, I was hurting for that character.
You know, you want somebody with, like Wolverine, with healing factor who shouldn't be able to die, to go through these kinds of things,
right?
You know, because you care more about him when he goes through this kind of.
Well, they have to go through the 7 stages.
He could precisely. There's stuff here that he could have that he's never had to deal with in the previous films, and I cared more about him here than I ever have before, and that was great.
Definitely, it brings new light to the character in the previous as Wolverine in the previous films.
I was talking a little bit about violence, and I will say that the most violent stuff they do off screen.
Yes, the absolute most violent stuff.
The place where you turn your head, they didn't show it. I don't know if you totally closed your eyes or not.
No, I didn't.
They actually didn't show the thing that you thought they were going to show.
I know, and I actually was kind of impressed with that because they get you to the breaking point. They make you...
And I don't know if you noticed this, but they set us up for it earlier in the movie.
Did they really?
Yeah, because really early, I want to say in like the first 10 minutes or so, there's a scene where Wolverine stabs a guy.
Oh, yeah. They
have the camera above it so you don't see him get stabbed.
Right.
So when they got to that part, the scene was similar enough. I didn't think they'd show it, and then they didn't show it.
There was another scene. There was another scene where Wolverine's doing something to another character. It's the Minister of not Defense.
Minister of Justice.
Minister of Justice.
Yes.
He's has dealings with the Minister of Justice, and there's something that happens. And even though I called and mouthed the line that Wolverine said right after it happened, I was totally cool with it because it was just like, yes, where I wanted them to go is exactly where they went with that scene.
The last thing I'd like to say, because we've talked about this for a long time now, the last thing I want to say is I was impressed with all of the Japanese actors that I've never seen in anything. And it's fun to get to see a movie of this caliber with a bunch of actors I don't know, because I'm not distracted by having seen them in other things and thinking about where they were and that sort of thing. And all of these people became the characters that they were supposed to be in the movie.
Yes.
And it's also fun in taking a movie like this to another country that we get to give all of these great actors great things to do when they wouldn't be cast in our movies usually, because there wouldn't be anything for them, you know. You'd have like maybe the token Oriental guy in some kind of comedy or something, and there's or whatever it happens to be, and they didn't go for the big obvious actors. You know, they didn't go for like the guy who played the principal on Smallville, who was in Elektra, who I seem to see in like everything that needs like the stolid Oriental guy. Like they didn't go for that. They went for these actors that I've never seen before. That were all fantastic. So anyway.
Well, I would say I felt exactly what you're feeling, especially in the part of the old man. Because I felt like he
was wonderful.
He was, but I felt like
I had to look some of these people up and see what else
if they had been doing what you were talking about, I know who they would have probably cast for that role. I'm betting they would have cast
George Takei.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't want to because he's too recognizable.
Exactly.
And because the character is too close to who he played in Heroes.
Absolutely. And you're dead on. We're right on the money with that. I was like, I know he's right with me, but they didn't do that, and it was
his
great.
Voice was in exactly the same vocal range. As soon as he was on screen, I actually thought of George Takei. Yeah.
Me too, but I was glad they didn't go that direction with these things. I also will say there was another actor, and I don't know his name, but he was basically protector of the house, of the name, so to speak. Yeah. And there's kind of a little bit of a twist there too that I wasn't expecting, and that lends itself well to this movie as well.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching, and next week, hopefully early on in the week, I'm going to be doing a spoiler podcast with Shades at Night, who is the biggest X-Men fan I know, and he and I have done commentaries on all of the X-Men movies, and it's been a long time since he and I have got to talk about X-Men, so I'm really excited about that. I already saw a message from him earlier. He said he enjoyed the film. I can't wait to talk to him about it. So, anyway, thanks again, everybody, for watching us review a new movie, and we'll review something else for you next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
See you next time.